What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we're going to be recapping Week 2 in the Overwatch League. We had a lot of good things happen this weekend. The matches weren't the greatest, but we found out a lot of stuff about a lot of teams, and especially the ones we haven't seen. Teams like Washington and Boston and New York. There were a bunch of things that happened this weekend, so we're going to dive into that in just a second. I just want to thank everybody for joining me. Everybody that's been around, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate all the likes, subscribes, and all of the support you've given me. If you're new, thanks a lot for joining me. I do Overwatch League content 2 to 3 times a week. Might be a little bit more this week because we have the tournament prelims going on Sunday. So I might try and get something up on Saturday night, talk about the matches and where we're at with the tournament. But otherwise, we are going to be talking Week 2. So if you're new, thanks a lot. Hit a like, hit a subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. So let's get ready to talk about Week 2. All right. So we had some storylines going in that, for me, a lot of questions. And it's a lot of the stuff that I talked about in a couple of the episodes where I did I want to see them. So we had some good matches. I'll just go over the scores really quick. Well, decent enough matches. Actually, I take that back. We didn't have that many good matches. Anyway, so a lot of questions were answered this weekend. A lot of stuff I want to see. But let's do the final scores really quick, just so we can get on topic here. All right, Friday, first match of the weekend, we had Paris defeating Vancouver 3-1. Next match, we had the Gladiators beating the London Spitfire 3-0. Then Saturday, we went back to APAC. Chengdu beat New York 3-0. Philly beat Hangzhou 3-1. Back to the West, we had Houston defeating Paris 3-1. The Gladiators winning 3-0. The Justice winning 3-1. The Excelsior on Sunday took care of business against Hangzhou 3-1. Philadelphia, in the big match of the weekend, beat the Chengdu Hunters 3-1. And then Sunday, we're back on Sunday here. That was the last good match on Sunday. We had Houston stomping the Spitfire 3-0, Dallas crushing the Uprising 3-0, and Washington toying with the Vancouver Titans 3-1. All right, so there you go. There you have it. A lot of 3-0s, a lot of 3-1s. A couple of them were closer than you might want if you're a fan of a certain team. A couple of them were a little surprising. I was surprised the Titans took a map. Not that that's a bad thing. I just think that at the point in the match where they did take the match from the Justice, they were kind of playing with their food. But let's talk topics here for the week. All right. Houston's for real. Number 1. That tank line of Piggy and Django are fantastic. Yes, they played Boston and Paris. Or, I'm sorry, London and Paris. But you have to take into context, they destroyed them in both matches. And in the second match, we'll talk about this briefly, Dante didn't play. Apparently, later on Twitter, he posted a picture of himself in the hospital. He had to have emergency surgery. So, Dante, get better, man. That's a big guy to have out. And they still took care of London like they weren't even there. Didn't miss a beat, didn't skip anything. Perfect synergy, all that. Jake was filling in here and there, and they had, they just did what they've been doing, which is weird to say about Houston, but Django is insane. And Piggy's really good, too. I think Piggy's getting left out because Django's doing those bumper shatters where he just, yeets and fucking bunny hops and then just blasts everybody into oblivion. He had a couple of another weekend of stellar Reinhardt play. His monkey's really good, too. He's all around just good. And Piggy is also very good. Their whole team is better than I thought, and I thought they were going to be good. They had a favorable schedule in this week. Last week was tough. They got through that 2-0, and they took care of the business. Things that you don't normally get with Houston. They'll surprise beat a team, but then lose like last year they lost to Boston out of nowhere. So Houston's looking great. I'm very impressed with what I've seen. Jake is doing kind of what I thought he would do. I mean, a leader, all that stuff. They seem to have a plan, and Junk Buck is helping out in this whole scenario as well. He's working wonders with this team. They are a different team, a different animal, and they're kind of scary going into this May Melee tournament, guys. I mean, you can say what you want about Washington and other teams, and the Gladiators rebounded this weekend. Florida, whoever you want to talk about, Houston's kind of the favorite. Even San Francisco. I mean, they beat them, so be the man, beat the man thing. They're kind of favored going into this tournament in my mind. But we'll talk about more of that in the middle of the week because we have matches starting on Thursday this week, guys. So look for an episode up a little bit earlier, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, than my usual Thursday night, Friday morning, just for the regular season matches. And then Sunday, of course, we have the tournament thing going on. But Outlaws, very, very impressive to me. The bottom teams are what we thought they were. Boston was very disappointing this weekend. They did not take a map, and they got absolutely crushed. I don't know what's going on. I thought they would be better, but I think it could be. The matchups were tough. I'm not going to lie. Dallas and Gladiators are two of the best teams in the league, and they're middle to bottom middle. At this point, I'm afraid for them. Myeongbong dies way too much. Their tank play is okay. It's good at times. The same thing with their DPS. And then there's a breakdown. If you watch any of their matches, they look like that they were making progress, and then there was a breakdown in either communications, ult rotations, and they lose fights that they have no business losing in some of these matches. Now, the Gladiators, who they played in one of the matches, they were all business this week. 3-0, 3-0. Took care of the two bad teams they played. London looked bad, but they looked a better version of bad than Boston did. Ditto goes for Paris. Vancouver, I don't know. Vancouver is... when they look good, they always get a map, but then it's like there's... much like Boston. See the Boston... my thoughts on Boston this week. Ult rotation, sometimes hero swapping, things like that get a little dicey. They have some talent on this team. You can see it because when they press, sometimes they do things that a team at their level shouldn't be doing. Paris looked decent enough. I thought. I'm kind of meh on them. I don't think they're the worst team in the league, but they're no better than Boston or London or Vancouver at this point. Those four teams are going to be circling around the bottom, with London, I think, coming up out of that. I thought London would be a little bit better to start with the synergy that they have. You can see that they've played with each other, and there are moments where they do well, but yeah, it was just kind of a weird weekend for them. To the East, let's get this out of the way, because this is the whole storyline of the weekend. Philadelphia is now 4-0. I thought they would be 3-1 and be just fine. I thought they would lose maybe the first match to Seoul. But Seoul is Seoul, and we formerly had the Chengdu zone. I think we should just call it Dynasty Land, or whatever. Because they're the team that you don't know what's going to happen at any given moment. Chengdu is good. They destroyed New York. New York didn't have a chance. They did not look good in this match. Chengdu looked fantastic. Hangzhou, also, bad weekend. New York didn't have a bad weekend. I think they're proving themselves to be better than the Zhaos and the Valiant, but not better than any other team above them. I think that they're going to be that gatekeeper to the bottom of APAC right now. There's some promise on this team. Their plant-based DPS looked pretty good. Flora and Ivy doing different things, and Jonak did Jonak things. I think they'll be fine. Yakpung was marginal at best to me in what I saw. But I'm getting off topic here. I started rambling about New York. So Philly, I'm going to be smug here. Not a vast level smug like he is with the Mayhem, but I told you guys. There is no way you could have told me and convinced me that a team that has Mono, Carpe, and Alarm are going to be terrible. You add in Toby and Hotba, who are above average players in the Overwatch League. Toby, one of the best. Yeah, all right, they're replacing a couple of guys that are phenomenal. But Hotba is a tick below Poco, not by much. And he looked great this weekend. And Mono looked really good. They looked like a force. Carpe was doing Carpe things. And you have Rascal, who is Rascal and does whatever he does. So, there were points in the weekend where you had Carpe playing Sombra, Rascal playing Tracer, and I think Carpe is just like owning because he doesn't have to worry about having to hard carry on this team right now. And I think it's working out fantastic. They're just looking good. They clobbered Chengdu. Chengdu did not deal with that very well. They came back. Well, all right, I'm being a little dramatic here. Chengdu, it was a good match. It was a really good match, and it was a close 3-1 actually. But in the key moments, Philadelphia's players shined over Chengdu, and I think that's more experience than anything. I think Chengdu is in it for the long haul. You can't sell me on Chengdu being bad. I think right now, if I was to put it on paper, I would have Philly, Chengdu, probably Shanghai, and then Seoul. That's as of this moment, but we're not getting into that. We'll get into that in the off week, where we do a little adjustments and see where we are right and wrong. But I'm on the Philly train. I have been since I had them as, I believe, 2 in APAC. And, guys, sometimes you just got to look at the talent. In a minute, we're going to talk about my idiocy with this statement that I'm making, where I don't follow my own rules. But you got to look at the talent. You can't reasonably tell me that Alarm, Carpe, Rascal, Mono, this is not including Toby and Hotba in there, are going to lose that many matches in a division where 4 of the teams are either all rookies or really young. It's just, mathematics do not work out for them to be bad. And the analysts and shit that were saying that they were bad are just hot-taking the fuck out of it. Because they even know deep down, there's no way Carpe's going to let them do that. Let alone Carpe and Rascal, and then Mono, who's a winner as well. This isn't translating into postseason stuff. I'm talking about right now as we look at Philadelphia. And they dispelled some of that last year too. Shanghai was just better. People just need to deal with that. Shanghai was really good. Meta didn't favor them. All the stupid things. And I'm not a Philly apologist because my team has to fucking deal with them, or had to deal with them all last year. So I'm glad they're over here. So the Mayhem don't even have to see them until a tournament. Because we got them once, but that was it. The other couple of times were not pretty. And like I said, with this side in APAC, Chengdu's really good too. I think they proved that they're, like I said, here for the long haul. I think New York is a gatekeeper. Hangzhou's terrible, Guangzhou's terrible, and the Valiant, or whatever the fuck the Valiant are. At some point, and I'm saying this, the Valiant could outshine one of those 2 teams. And then we have the Dynasty Land, Never Never Land, wherever the Dynasty are this week, they'll probably be on fire because there's money on the table and tournament stuff, so they'll probably be fine. But APAC was some questions. Like I said, this is a question answering weekend. Okay, now back to the West. I'm all over the place, guys. It was just really hype, really excited watching some of the play. Back to the West. Yeah, so my statement 2 minutes ago, I should have listened to my brain on this, even though I had Washington going 2-0. To think that Washington was going to be terrible with that tank line in Decay was just dumb. I'm sorry. I can admit when I'm being stupid. That was dumb. The one thing that happened, though, that I was really questioning them on was the support line, and Bebe was a fucking god this weekend. I will give that dude props, and Closer was really good too, and that's what this team needed. They slapped Dallas around. Dallas didn't have a hit scan player. I understand that. I am on the Dallas bandwagon this year. They have to figure this out sooner than later because they can't beat a good team like Washington. Yeah, they beat the Gladiators, and they beat Houston, or lost to Houston in a close match. But that was tomfoolery and trickery. The more tape there is on this team, people are going to know. And when they come up against teams like the Justice and the Shock and stuff like that, without a hit scan player, which I still can't believe that someone can't play at a reasonable level on hit scan on this team, they're in trouble. The one thing that we all thought with Dallas, really quick on them, is that they didn't have a Tracer player, but Sparkle seems to be playing better than expected. I thought he'd be fine, but I didn't think he was like, top level in the league. But like Decay though owned him for most of that match, And the thing with Washington is they impressed me. Mag is a beast, and Mag and Fury are frightening. And then you throw Decay in there doing his thing, which frees up the guy I joked around and called a meme, Jerry, to just fucking let loose. This team is frightening on so many levels. I want to see them play the Shock and the Mayhem and some more top quality teams coming up, which we're probably going to see them in this tournament. There's no, I don't want to see no chance of them losing and falling out of the top right now. But they looked nigh unbeatable. But they play Boston and they play Toronto, both winnable games for them next week, previous to or prior to the tournament. That's kind of not an easy for them week. A suspect week for other teams. It'd go up in the air because Toronto's decent and Boston isn't garbage, I think, and I might change that depending on what happens this week. But they have had a rough schedule. Gladiators, really quick. Let's talk about them. They came back. They looked like the Gladiators should look. They came out. They're still jerking around with moving players in and out and putting Mirror on. But hey, Space kind of cleared that up and said Mirror's been playing it, for years, and they're more comfortable with him on Zarya. All right, I'll accept that. They looked better. I think Muse was a little bit more confident, especially when he was playing like the dives and stuff like that. He looked a lot better. There were times where there were some iffy moments, let's just put it that way, but they got through them. They were playing London and Boston, I will give them that, but it's what they needed, and they took care of business, and they didn't play around, they didn't mess around. They're starting to look good again. Obviously, they have this rotation set. It seems to be working. It telegraphs itself a little bit what you're going to play. With some of the players, when you're taking Moth out, obviously everybody knows you're going to be playing Brig. And you put Mirror in a tank, obviously you're playing a Zarya comp. But Birdring looked better this weekend. There was a lot of things. They worked on some stuff during the week, which is great, and they're ready to go. Now they have next week off. So does Houston. They're both Gladiators are 2-2, Houston's 4-0, and they can watch the front half of the weekend and see what happens, because the Gladiators aren't necessarily in yet. A couple of things can happen where they get knocked out, which we'll go over all of that on the preview episode this week. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with some of the teams. The scary thing with this week was the matches that we thought were going to be good were not the greatest. I mean, I will say Dallas hung in with the Justice. Couple of maps here and there, could have gone either way. Same thing with Chengdu, but the talent won out in the end. And Dallas's lack of hit scan it foiled them on a couple of maps where they just had to try weird stuff and different things. And right now, if you're Dallas, there are certain maps you just don't want to see necessarily. When they get if they get strapped into a map of like Havana or something like that, that's bad, where you can't get Brawly and Doomfist and Sombra a lot. Where there's open space and long sight lines and stuff like that, and you don't have that hit scan player, you're kind of fucked. All in all, they'll be fine once they get this hit scan player that's magically on the way, whatever. But we got some separation of teams and some good looks at different teams this week. I'm not really covering the matches because there really wasn't anything. I mean, there were a lot of exciting plays. Django just whipping Earth Shatters out and just crushing people. Kevster, not Kevster, KSF, who had to fill in for Dante, and everybody was worried about him, including me. I was like, I don't know. They were playing London, which, kind of worked out for them, but he had a ridiculous pulse bomb stick scenario thing. It was just crazy. But yeah, the weekend was good. I enjoyed pretty much all of just seeing the action and watching these guys. This year, the 3-0s and stuff, there were some bad matches. There was that Boston match was kind of brutal with Dallas, and Mr. X, I thought, was gonna, I don't know if he was gonna just run to Boston and ask him what the fuck they were doing, because he was getting very frustrated. You could hear it. But the play overall, it's just been more fun to watch. Even the stomps weren't like boring, grindy, just meh, the alt rotation, here we go, yep, over, fight, over. There was some of that, but there were just big plays, even by the teams that were losing. There were some moments of, what the hell was that? This year's hitting differently, and I kind of like it. And it feels more like it did in Season 1 to me, and early Season 2, where everything seems fresh and fun, goes to the casters and everybody that's doing it. Not that they didn't do a good job last year. Everything is a little bit lighter. Yeah, last year was not a light year and on any stretch for anyone with the pandemic. But it just feels like it's kind of coming back around to Overwatch League is fun again. We're getting big plays. We're getting to see these guys shine. I don't think it has much to do with the comps per se, but the level of play is getting ratcheted up. And like I believe Bren said at one point, he said, Boston, he's higher on Boston because, they've leveled up. But the problem is that everybody else, for the most part, has done the same thing. I'm paraphrasing, but it's the sentiments that I've been having. Everybody's gotten leveled up. I mean, Boston is better on paper, but right now the other teams are just better than them because they've upgraded as well. And just everything feels better than it has in a long time with Overwatch League, and it's great and it's exciting, and I'm liking it. Even the look of the broadcast is a lot better. I liked what they did. They kind of fixed the last year's problem with the aesthetics and all that, and I'm liking the casters. Vicky, Kitty, and Jaws were fantastic. We finally got to see them and hear them, and I thought they were great. I loved the synergy that they're already starting to have, and it's fun hearing fresh voices and people that are excited about the league too. You can just feel it, and that builds the excitement for these matches too. But I'm rambling on about nonsense right now. But that is kind of my take. We're going to go right now. We're going to do a look into the standings and see where we're at, because we really need to do that here and talk about regionally what's happening. So, okay, so the standings we got right now, as far as, with the map differentials and all that, granted some teams that haven't finished playing, but the teams that have finished playing are Vancouver, who's 0-4. Obviously, they're at the bottom. Houston's 4-0. Dallas and the Gladiators are both 2-2. And then you have Washington, Florida, Toronto, all at 2-0 that have matches to play this week. And then Paris is 1-1, Shocker 1-1, and then you have a bunch of 0-2s with Atlanta, Boston, and London. I think some questions are going to be answered. I think right now Atlanta could be looking on the outside of that this tournament thing, just because they have the Shock this week, and that's going to be tough to overcome. And ditto goes for the Mayhem on that. They have the Shock, and the Shocker not going to be too happy about coming into this week. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a fight. So they got Paris and San Francisco this week, Atlanta. The standings are kind of wonky, but you kind of see where we're playing out for this tournament. We're waiting on a couple of teams, mostly Washington and Florida, to see what happens with them. And we're going to talk more in depth about what's going on with these teams and what we think is going to happen on the Wednesday episode. But they got the Shock and the Eternal. They have the same schedule as Atlanta, except for the matches are flipped around. So they're playing Friday and Saturday, not on Thursday. And then they would have to go into Sunday. So, I mean, Paris played okay. Mayhem get a little weird. They go 0-2. You'll see some teams moving up and down. That would open it up more for the Gladiators and Dallas to be into the tournament than them right now. I don't see them going 0-2. I see them losing to San Francisco, and we'll talk about that more. I could change my mind. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan, so I don't want to say such things. But if you look at the East, there are only two teams that have finished off their schedule, and that's top two, where we have Philly and Chengdu at 3-1. Rest of the teams all got 2 matches under their belt. We're going to see them all clash this week. Seoul and the Dragons are both 1-1, along with New York. And then the rest of the teams, Hangzhou, Valiant, and Guangzhou, are all 0-2. Right now, the Valiant are sitting above the Charge with map differential, but here we are. But you're gonna see a bigger disparity in map differentials with the teams in the East, just because there's less teams, and when they're playing the bad teams, they're just clocking them. There's no There's like I'd say there's 1 mediocre team, 1 mystery team, and 3 good teams in this region. So map differentials are going to be far more spaced out. I think we're looking at a good tournament. All right, I think that's going to do it, guys, for this episode. So we talked about week 3, wrapped it up, or week 2. We're going to get ready for week 3. Look for something, like I said, Wednesday night, Thursday morning-ish, because we have the schedules moved up because of the tournament. Thanks to everybody for joining me. Thanks to all of you guys who have subscribed and hit the like button and all that stuff for me. Thank you very much. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. If you guys are new and you like what you're hearing, do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody out there, stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you on the next one.